Need to come to order, please. Roll call if you press your present button, please. And confirm. Record it. Thank you. Staff announcements.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have several announcements. First of all, I think it'd be appropriate to welcome our newest planning commissioner, Sharon Hatcher. She is an entrepreneur. She is a grandmother, a mother, a vet's wife, let me see, a health instructor. TV personality. She's all over the place. She's all over the place. Yeah. Well, we won't go there. We won't go there. But she has a little dairy concern out in the county that a few people know of. But we're awfully happy that she chose to join us. Secondly, item 19 has been withdrawn, and let me see. That is one of the. I've made this too easy on myself. Item 19 is preliminary plat for Falls Grove Phase 4, I believe it is. It's hidden under all that. Thirdly, we have, last year was the end of the budget year, and you have in front of you a planner's dictionary. Don't get terribly impressed. It's kind of a lost leader on the planning library, but I thought it'd be something good to, share with you folks. I know we use it fairly extensively at a staff level, and I figured it's just I don't know, it's one of my weaknesses to buy books. I hope y'all do a better job of reading them than I do. So, lastly, Katie wanted me to read something into the record. I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'll try to work at it. If y'all don't understand what I say, I'll go back and read it. But at any rate, we are in the process of implementing we're transitioning to a new review process we hope is going to be more efficient. So a web-based system called IDT Plans. For those of you who've worked around Franklin, it's something they've been using for some time, and we were impressed with that. One of the items, we're going to be testing it out. We hope to have it fully implemented by November. But one of the plans before us tonight actually went through the system, and essentially what it does is it allows, rather than trading papers, trading comments, and like that, we're able to do it on a web-based basis. We'll continue to ramp this out little by little, and hopefully it'll be fully implemented by November. Did I leave out anything?
No, I think that's it. We'll let you know of any changes along the way, and we'll continue just integrating new reviews.
All right, and Mr. Chairman, just for the reference, we have one consent agenda item, and there was a typo on it, and it's a fairly important typo I'd like to correct. It's under item 22 on Southern Preserve.
Okay.
If you read the third paragraph, it said staff recommends approval of this preliminary plat. It should be read final plat. I want to point that out. The motion within the consent agenda does in fact say final plat, and the motion contained within the consent agenda is also correct. But I wanted to give you all the opportunity to do that. And I think other than that, I think I've talked about all I can tonight. Okay?
Thank you. Consideration of the minutes of June 9/16. Any changes or corrections? Motion made and seconded. Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Consideration of the consent agenda. Agenda items 3 through 15, plus agenda item 22 on consent. Anyone on the commission wishing to pull an item for separate discussion, please say so now. Otherwise, we'll take it as a whole. Anyone? Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 3, addition to Legends Ridge, Section 2A, Lot 924, performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $65,000. Recommendation, convert to maintenance in the amount of $25,000 and extend for a period of 1 year. Item 4, Bell Vista, Section 4, maintenance bond for landscaping, $2,300. Recommendation, release the bond. Item 5, Chardonnay, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $130,000. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 1 year. Item 6, Chardonnay, Section 4, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $100,000. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 1 year. Item 7, Dunblane Subdivision, performance bond for sewer, $70,000. Recommendation, convert to maintenance in the amount of $21,000 and extend for a period of 1 year. Item 8, Farms at Clover Cross wastewater area, performance bond for landscaping, $64,350. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 6 months. Item 9, Farms at Clovercroft wastewater area, performance bond for wastewater treatment disposal, $72,000. Recommendation, convert to maintenance in the amount of $21,600 and extend for a period of 2 years. Item 10, Kings Chapel, Section 4A, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $110,000. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 1 year. Item 11, On Track Studios, performance bond for landscaping, $32,065. Recommendation, extend in current amount and review at the November 16 meeting to allow for completion. Item 12, Stag's Leap, Section 3B, maintenance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $180,000. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 1 year. Item 13, Southern Preserve, Section 1, performance bond for water, $35,500. Recommendation, release the bond. Item 14, The Grove, Section 5, performance bond for wastewater collection system, $158,100. Recommendation, convert to maintenance amount of $47,430 and extend for a period of 2 years. Item 15, The Grove, Section 5, performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control, $600,000. Recommendation, extend in current amount for a period of 1 year. Dropping down to item 22 under final plats. Final plat review for Southern Preserve, Section 2, containing 16 lots on 28.89 acres, located off Lewisburg Pike in the 2nd voting district. The plat is in order and staff recommends approval with the following stipulations. 1, the posting and performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control in the amount of $200,000. This amount is reduced based on work completed. 2, the posting and performance bond for landscaping in the amount of $44,660. 3, the execution of stormwater maintenance agreement, submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And 4, submission of the final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plane Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on the consent? Motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 16, non-residential site plan review for New Approach School of Jewelry Arts on 28.40 acres located at 8240 Malachi Lane in the 5th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a revised site plan on the desk in front of you, which includes some minor notes required by the Department of Sewage Disposal Management. The applicant is requesting approval of a personal service establishment use, which will operate as New Approach School of Jewelry Arts in the Village Zoning District. The property is approximately 28 acres in size and is located on Malachi Lane. Parcels surrounding the property in question range in size from 1 to approximately 22 acres and are used for light industrial, commercial, residential, and agricultural purposes. The applicant is proposing to construct an 8,757 square foot building for use as a jewelry school with classes held on jewelry repair and construction. There is a large pond centrally located on the site, and the applicant has provided documentation to staff regarding the buffering and crossing of this area in conjunction with the site plan submittal. Water service is provided by a private on-site well, and wastewater is handled via on-site septic. At the time of this writing, the Williamson County Department of Sewage Disposal Management is evaluating the request. Bulk and performance standards have been met, as have the specific requirements associated with personal service establishment uses. The submitted landscaping plan has been reviewed and approved. The site plan is in order and pending approval by the septic facilities, by the Williamson County Department of Sewage Disposal Management by meeting date. Staff recommends approval with the following stipulations. 1, the posting of a performance bond for landscaping in the amount of $20,600. And 2, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operations and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And one final note, the Department of Sewage Disposal Management has approved the request.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions of staff? Comments? Discussion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Now. Recorded. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 17, concept plan review for the enclave at Dove Lake containing 130 lots on 214.60 acres located off Knowlesville Road in the 4th voting district. Staff?
The applicant is requesting concept approval for this 130-lot conservation subdivision in the Rural Development 1 zoning district. The review of a concept plan is the first stage in the development approval process. The site in question totals approximately 215 acres in size and is located on Nolensville Road, approximately 1 mile north of its intersection with Osborne Road. Big Oak Lane bisects the property and will serve as the primary access point to the development. Adjacent properties range in size from approximately 2 acres to nearly 300 acres and are either vacant or used for residential and/or agricultural purposes. A large portion of the site is covered by natural resources, including areas of steep slopes, woodlands, several streams which require waterway natural area buffers, and a small area of floodplain located in the southeastern corner of the property. Approximately 53% of the site is covered in tree canopy. The natural resource protection standards of the zoning ordinance have been met. The proposed development consists of 130 lots ranging from approximately 1/4 acre to slightly more than 1/2 acre in size. The overall density is 0.6 dwelling units per acre. Approximately 69% of the site will be preserved in open space. Access to the proposed development will be provided from 2 entrances on Nolensville Road, which is classified as an arterial roadway by the major thoroughfare plan. Roadway stubs will be provided to serve as connections to properties to the south should they be developed in the future. The traffic shed analysis performed by the applicant indicates that the proposed number of lots is within acceptable limits based upon the capacity of the existing roadways. Both a left turn lane and a right turn deceleration lane will facilitate turning movements into the site from Nolensville Road. Within the development, the applicant is requesting a right-of-way width of 40 feet in order to locate sidewalks outside of the right-of-way and a design speed of 25 miles per hour. Staff is in support of these requests. Water service will be provided by the Nolensville College Grove Utility District, while wastewater will be handled via a non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system, which was approved by this body at the December 2015 meeting. Staff recommends approval of this concept plan along with the request for a 40-foot right-of-way and a 25-mile-per-hour design speed. It should be noted that once detailed construction and engineering plans are prepared in conjunction with the submittal of a preliminary plat, changes to the layout, including the potential for a reduction in lots, may be necessary. A number of items must be addressed with future submittals. The preliminary plat must address the following. Number 1, submission of roads, drainage, and erosion control plans for review and approval by the county engineer. Such would include turn lane improvements on Nolensville Road. Turn lane improvements must be approved by TDOT prior to the preliminary plat submittal. Number 2, submission of water plans for review and approval by Nolensville College Grove Utility District. Number 3, submission of construction plans for all required wastewater treatment and disposal facilities to TDEC, the county's consultant, and staff. And number 4, identification of lots requiring engineered site plans for Article 13 of the zoning ordinance. Final plat must address the following. Number 1, prior to submittal of a final plat, the turn lane improvements on Nolensville Road must be completed in accordance with the approved plans. Number 2, prior to final plat submittal, a zoning certificate must be obtained for the completed treatment and disposal system. Prior to issuance of the zoning certificate, the applicant shall provide the following: A letter from TDEC indicating that the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system was installed and is functioning. B, as-built drawings showing the location of all system components and a sealed certification letter from the design engineer indicating that the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system was constructed in accordance with the approved construction plans and specifications. C, a letter from the owner utility provider indicating that it has accepted the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system and is currently operating the same. D, posting of a performance bond in the amount of $271,500 for the non-traditional wastewater treatment and disposal system as specified by the county's wastewater consultant. And E, posting of a performance bond in the amount of $34,155 for landscaping improvements. Number 3, prior to consideration of the final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The approved HOA documents must be recorded with the final plat. 4, establishment of performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. 5, establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Nolensville College Grove Utility District. 6, establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system. 7, submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. 8, the dedication of right-of-way 60 feet off the center line of Nolensville Road. 9, execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And number 10, submission of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Madison has comments regarding the correspondence from the developer that's sitting on your desk in front of you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Just real quickly, as you know, there are 2 entrances into this development from Nolensville Road. The main entrance, which is the one further north, and then a secondary entrance that is a bit further south. The traffic evaluation that was performed on this showed that turn lanes were required for the northern entrance, but not for the southern entrance, and the county's consultant concurred with that finding. However, in response to a question that was raised by Commissioner McCoy, I asked the developer if he would be willing to voluntarily provide a decel lane on the southern access point, even though one's not required. He indicated that he is willing to do that, and the email in front of you is that commitment by the developer, so I wanted to call that to your attention.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Don?
Yeah, the Big Oak Road, it seems to just come down and stop. It's a little confusing to me. What is it doing?
I'm sorry, Mr. Carr, I didn't hear you.
Okay, Big Oak Road just seems to come down and stop. There's no way of turning around at the end of it, or...
Do you want to answer?
It's a current county road, and they're going down a certain to a certain point, and then they're branching off with their subdivision road. So they're not going to be improving all of Big Oak, but they're going to be improving a large portion of Big Oak. They're going to leave the end of Big Oak alone. There's only one person that I believe lives or will be living after it's constructed off an easement at the end of the road.
Okay, and it'll be adequate on that road to be able to turn around when they come down to the end of it?
Well, the end, like I said, is a current county road. They'll have the opportunity to, I don't know what the current condition is, but we can ask the highway, commission. They have to approve the road plans to improve Big Oak. So we can address that issue with the highway commission.
Okay. And the other question, on the build out of these roads, is it possible in some way of having the homeowners association or whatever maintain a signage or something? We get into this problem all the time where people don't realize the road's going to go through in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we can put a sign up.
Just so future development or somebody come in and they realize that that's not a dead-end road. It's
Right. And I mean, right now it's a dead-end road, and I don't know if there's signage or not, but as part of the subdivision plans, we can have them put a no outlet sign at the entrance to the subdivision and a placard at the end of the road indicating that it, could be extended in the future. But I mean, there's an old detail in the subregs of a barrier,
Right.
that goes at the end of these roads. And I think there's some of those have been put up, but no one likes having one of those at, the end of their road. So we can have, some kind of smaller sign and placard that indicates that it could be extended.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 18, preliminary plat review for Falls Grove Phase 3 revised, containing 22 lots on 51.41 acres located off of Udaly Covington Road in the 5th voting district. Staff?
The preliminary plat for this phase was previously approved at the June 2015 meeting. The applicant is now proposing to eliminate 5 lots from this phase of the development. Due to the proposed reduction of lots, the preliminary plat must be reconsidered at this time. As part of the previous approval, the applicant had requested a design speed of 25 miles per hour for the roadways within the section and a right-of-way width of 40 feet in order to locate sidewalks outside of the right-of-way. Staff remains in support of these requests and recommends approval of this preliminary plat. In conjunction with final plat consideration, the following items must be addressed. 1. Prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents for review and approval by the County Attorney's Office. The approved HOA documents must be recorded prior to the recording of the final plat. 2. Establishment of a performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. 3. Establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Millcrofton Utility District. 4. Establishment of a performance bond for the wastewater collection system. 5. Submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. 6. Execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. 7. Dedication of right-of-way along Udaly Covington Road as indicated on the preliminary plat. And 8. Submission of the approval final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plane Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat.
Comments? Motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 19 is withdrawn. Agenda item 20 is preliminary plat review for Fox and Canyon containing 49 lots on 92.29 acres located off of Heartland Road in the 8th voting district. Staff?
The concept plan governing this development was approved by this body at the May 2016 meeting. The applicant is now requesting preliminary plat approval for this 49-lot conservation subdivision. The preliminary plat is identical in layout to that depicted on the approved concept plan. As stipulated in the concept plan approval, a landscaping plan which reflects a Type C buffer between the portion of the proposed construction entrance that is located within the Hart's Landmark subdivision and the adjacent lot that is located within the Farmington subdivision has been submitted. The buffer material shown on this plan must be installed prior to the issuance of a land disturbance permit, and a maintenance bond for this landscaping will be required in conjunction with final plat approval of the first section of the development. After 2 separate submittals and reviews, engineering calculations related to the hydraulics of the impaired stream on the property suggest that there may be areas of 100-year floodplain that extend onto building lots in violation of the county's zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. The applicant has indicated that additional information demonstrating that the 100-year floodplain will not extend onto building lots can be provided prior to the meeting date. However, it is not clear at this writing whether that can be demonstrated. Moreover, it is not clear what effect, if any, such might have on the preliminary plat document attached to this report. With these circumstances pending, staff cannot recommend approval of the preliminary plat at this time. If additional hydraulic calculations are provided that sufficiently demonstrate that the 100-year floodplain will not, in fact, encroach onto building lots, and this body approves the request on that basis, the following items must be addressed in conjunction with final plat submittal. 1. Prior to consideration of final plat approval, the applicant shall submit HOA documents for review and approval by the county attorney's office. The approved HOA documents must be recorded prior to the recording of the final plat. 2. Establishment of a performance bond for roads, drainage, and erosion control. 3. Establishment of a performance bond for water improvements in favor of Mallory Valley Utility District. 4. Establishment of a performance bond for sewer improvements in favor of Harpeth Wastewater Cooperative. 5. Establishment of a maintenance bond for the landscaping comprising the Type C buffer between the portion of the proposed construction entrance that is located within the Hartz Landmark subdivision and the adjacent lot that is located within the Farmington subdivision. 6. Submission of landscaping plans and establishment of a performance bond for landscaping. 7. Execution of a stormwater maintenance agreement and submission of an operation and maintenance plan for stormwater improvements. And 8. Submission of the approved final plat in DWG format on recordable media based on the Tennessee State Plan Coordinate System prior to signature and recording of the plat. A couple of additional items. First, I wanted to mention that we did receive the additional hydraulic data that indicates that the lots will be out of the 100-year floodplain that is associated with the creek. Also wanted to point out that there is a revised preliminary plat in front of you reflecting a minor change that was requested by staff. That concludes my remarks, but I understand that Kristi Ransom would like to make a comment.
I just wanted to call your attention, I left on your desk a memo, and Sheila provided a copy of some litigation that was filed this week challenging your concept plan approval of the subdivision, this subdivision, in fact. And because that's very recent and I'm still trying to get my arms around it, I would ask if you would, defer action on this preliminary plat request until the next meeting, so I can just do some research, make sure there's nothing in that litigation that may affect what my opinion would be to you on this particular approval. And if you have any questions about what I've given you, of course that's on the concept plan, please give me a call, we can talk about it, but you all have copies of it, and it was filed on Monday. Thanks.
Recommendations to defer?
To the next meeting.
Okay. No, that wasn't a motion. I'm sorry. I was making sure I understood her. I don't think I can do that. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Motion to defer. Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Wait a minute. Sharon, there you go. Record the vote. Motion carries. Sharon, you're going to find these things are pretty aggravating, so just get ready. Bring a hammer next time. Agenda item 21, final plats. Final plat review for the Manors at High Clare, large lot easement subdivision, reapproval, containing 5 lots on 37.85 acres located off Murfreesboro Road in the 4th voting district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This body approved this item at the May 2016 meeting. However, the applicant failed to record the final plat in the required 30 days and it expired. The applicant is requesting reapproval of a large lot easement subdivision in order to create 5 lots. The plat is in order and staff recommends approval subject to the following. A notice of coverage issued by TDEC will be required prior to the signing of the plat. A land disturbance permit must be obtained for the overall development. And 3, driveway and drainage infrastructure must be complete prior to issuance of building permits.
That's it?
That's it.
Reapproval. Motion? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I see none. Prepare to vote. Vote now. Record it. Hamrick, done. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 22 is on consent. 23, variance request for H&W Subdivision Lot 1. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting a variance to the subdivision regulations as it relates to right-of-way dedication. Planning Commission has sole authority as it relates to this action. The applicant has owned this property in its current configuration since 2007. It was purchased in 2 separate transactions. In August 07, the first transaction consisting of a 1-acre tract occurred. A view of the record indicates that this parcel was created prior to 1988 and is considered a legally non-conforming tract. However, in November 07, the applicant purchased a 0.506 acre tract from the adjacent owner. Under circumstances such as this, the appropriate course would have included the creation of a minor subdivision plat. Such did not occur. This irregularity came to light earlier this year when the applicant sought to add additional properties to accommodate a backup septic area in the rear of the property. The applicant was advised at the time of the necessity to file a minor subdivision plat to correct this past irregularity, as well as to legally accommodate his current wishes. As a matter of course, a right-of-way dedication of 25 feet off the center line of Warren Road would be required in conjunction with the filing of a minor plat. As is the case of many unplatted lots of this era, the property line is located in the center line of Warren Road. In order to effect this 25-foot dedication, it was then discovered that such a dedication would make the existing functioning septic system become non-conforming due to its proximity to the proposed dedicated rights-of-way. Warren Road is a local dead-end road of some 1.35 miles in length to its terminus in Cedarmont Drive. The property itself is located approximately 1.23 miles from the same terminus. The presumptive likelihood of the extension or widening of this roadway is difficult to conclusively handicap at this riding, but remote would seem a possible description. The practice of requiring dedication of right-of-way in conjunction with the plat of subdivision is well established. However, as it involves an existing tract with existing features, any such dedication of right-of-way involves cost beyond that of the property itself, and in doing so jeopardizes the status of compliant septic system to affect a possible future road widening that due to distance and location does retain a degree of remoteness. On the balance, this outcome seems unduly burdensome. In an effort to address this issue, the applicant is proposing a dedication of 11 feet off center line of Warren Road. This would allow the existing functioning septic system to remain in place in a manner that conforms to the subsurface septic regulations. Staff supports this request and recommends a variance that would limit the right-of-way dedication to 11 feet off the center line of Warren Road. I did not have this conversation, but I will also add that this was discussed with the highway superintendent, and he has no problem with this particular approach.
Questions? Sound like they got snake bit at every turn here.
Yeah, it's kind of the anti-house that Jack built.
Comments?
No
Motion?
offense, Jack.
I hear a real quiet second over here. A second. I got a second. Any further discussion? Prepare to vote. Vote now. Ed. There you go, Bubby. Record it. Motion carries. Thank you. Discussion regarding changes to bylaws. This is by counsel, and she's gonna come to the podium.
I wanted to stand up here so I could see y'all while we're talking about this, but first I guess I better read the staff report. At the June meeting and at the training session that preceded it, this body discussed a variety of potential procedural changes, the implementation of which would require changes to the Planning Commission bylaws. The changes or potential changes that were discussed included the following. The Planning Commission indicated a desire to change the meeting start time from 7 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. The Planning Commission discussed the merits of establishing a formal deadline for when written materials may be submitted for consideration by the Commission. It was felt that such a deadline would help ensure that the Planning Commission has ample time to review and consider such correspondence prior to the meetings. And 3, the Planning Commission discussed whether it may be appropriate to provide some additional opportunity for public comment, particularly related to large developments. In addition, to the aforementioned issues, Staff and the county attorney would like to discuss some additional potential bylaw changes that we feel would be beneficial, including establishing some basic procedures for how public hearings are conducted, as well as some minor cleanup changes. Following discussion regarding these potential changes and pursuant to the direction given by the Commission, staff will prepare a set of amendments to the bylaws for formal consideration at the August meeting. So, just a little bit of background and discussion. As you know, at our training session, we talked about the role of public comment and the role of the Planning Commission and the role of the County Commission in the planning and zoning process. We also talked about the role of the applicant and all the parties involved. It's important to make sure that there is a balance in all of that. It's also important to make sure that it's clear what exactly your role is. Your role is to implement and review documents based on the materials and the rules and the regulations that the County Commission has handed down to you. And so, with that in mind, I would like to do some things and recommend some changes to the bylaws that make things very clear what the expectations are of everybody involved. Part of what we talked about the other day was about property rights, and everybody has property rights involved in this: the applicant, the neighbors, the people in the community in general. And so we want everyone to have the opportunity to contribute when it's going to be a meaningful contribution. So first of all, you already decided pretty much, I guess, at the last meeting that we're going to move the meeting time up to 5:30, give more people an opportunity to get here. It's not in the middle of maybe sports or dinner or whatever. So that's a bylaw that we're going to draft, and we'll bring that, amendment rather, we'll bring that to you next month. The other thing that we talked about briefly, and I want to follow up more on, is filing written comments. As you all know, the way it is right now, you get emails haphazard all the time, and you may get one and you may get the same one, but you may not get it and you may not get it. And so what staff tries to do is get all of them and make copies and put them on your desk, which you're getting the night of the meeting and haven't had a chance to read them unless there's only one or two. And so when there's a stack of 100, that's a lot of stuff for you all to try and dredge through. And then it has also become a habit of late, which is very disturbing to me, for very important documents to be handed to you all the night of the meeting, with no opportunity for staff to review and offer you any comment, for me to review and offer any comment, or again, for you all to be able to even digest it. The reason that bothers me is because what you consider at your Planning Commission meeting is part of the record, okay? So once it's submitted to you, it's in the record, and it's part of what you have before you to make your decision, whether you've read it or not. And so what I would like to do is establish some rules for when things can be submitted, and maybe make a streamlined way of getting it submitted so that we know all of you are seeing all of the same thing. Now, at the same time, it needs to be clear what can be submitted when and to whom. And that's going to appear to be a slight restriction of public participation, but it's not. But I'm also going to address possibly enlarging public participation in another topic. But if we have some specific rules on when things are filed and how they can be filed, you all will have time to take a look at them and actually absorb them before the meeting, and it can have a meaningful contribution to your decision. So the way it works, as you all know, is the staff meets the Friday before the meeting to finish up all the staff reports, and that's when your packets are put together and sent out to you. So if we can create a process whereby that information is available for someone in the public who would like to see it Friday or Monday, then if we can get it to you by Tuesday, like have maybe a Tuesday afternoon deadline, Tuesday noon deadline, then staff can gather all of that and send it to you so that you have Tuesday and all of Wednesday and Thursday to consider and ask questions, and be prepared for staff to take a look at it, or me research something that you may be interested in. So that's kind of what the impetus of that is, that we want it to be fair to everyone, and we want the record to be complete, and to you all to be able to have a meaningful review of this material. And one of the things I want to possibly consider is also having the same rule for the applicant. We're getting some applicants coming in at the last minute and throwing stuff at you, and to me, that's the same level. The source doesn't matter to me. The timing and when you have the opportunity to meaningfully review something, that's what's important, and that's what goes in the record. So if you all are comfortable with that, you know, I'd like to work with staff to draft some rules and come up with some clear direction, frankly, on how things can get to you so you can all see it and all see it in a timely manner. Is there any comment?
Are we going to delay the initial packet, or it will still go out on that Friday?
No, you all will still get everything you
So this
get
is
now at the
anything
same time.
extra that
It's
comes
just we
out.
can supplement it to you and know that you're all getting it.
Okay.
And all getting it at the same time. And
Like
the other
by
thing,
next
Katie's
Tuesday.
been working on an email address to the Planning Commission instead of relying on people to try and find all of your email addresses or get them all in the same email. She's working on a way to consolidate that, where when you email the Williamson County Regional Planning Commission, you're emailing everybody. And that's something that we're talking about, the best way to kind of get that infrastructure in place too. So that
Basically saying by the time we'll still get our packets sent out on Friday, but by Tuesday, anything else that comes along, you need to have to mail out to us on Tuesday, so we definitely get it by Wednesday.
we'll likely send it to you electronically just because you'll get it faster, but there may
Oh,
be
well,
still
yeah,
one or two
okay.
folks who prefer snail mail, and so if we need to do that, we can do that or have it hand delivered, but electronically at least it'll all be gathered and sent to you, and you'll have time to review it and seek some feedback if you need to. So, Mr. Crohan?
Since it's part of the record, is there some way that we can have some highlighting of it with your initials or Joe's initials or somebody to know that this is part of the record, it's not coming from other people, so we know what to have ready for the meeting?
Yes, and that's partly why, you know, the idea of having the email to just the Planning Commission. We've got to figure out whether it's going to auto roll out to you guys electronically or staff's going to send it to you, but you will know that it's coming to everybody and it's coming to you officially, and you know, it's going to take a little while for the public to know, because we have been fairly
Loose.
generous with that kind of thing for a while, and so it's going to take some getting used to. And so in the interim, yeah, we'll have to kind of make sure it's clear to you all, this part is in the record, but this part can't be considered. And the bylaws will say that. It will say if it's submitted after this date and time, it's not going to be part of the record and won't be considered in your decision-making process. No, if something comes after.
Right, so then we won't see it.
Well, I mean, if somebody drops it off at your house, there's not a whole lot I can do about it, but you can't consider it in part of your decision because it would be outside of your rules of procedure.
Right, so we do get stuff mailed to us occasionally.
And we're going to talk about that. That's called ex parte communications. But I haven't wanted to really tighten up the ex parte communications until we've made it clear and given more opportunity for you all to receive your official information. The idea is not to make it harder for people to communicate with you. The idea is to make it more meaningful and organized so that you can consider what they're telling you. And it can make a difference or not in a decision. It will be meaningfully considered. Sammy?
So what Joe brought up and Katie's been working on, are we working towards by November receiving packets electronically, or is that just internal review stuff that you guys are working on?
I can answer that if you want me to. Right now, it's just internal. The goal is to move to fully electronic, and that would include y'all as well. Of course, if at any point you wanted paper copies, we could make that happen. It's not something that we would say, no, that's not an option anymore. But it could also help to get everything just emailed directly to you, and it would all be electronic. So, yes, the long-term goal would be to move to a more electronic based.
Flat sheets,
Mm-hmm.
2x3s.
You get a magnifying glass
Foot,
to
I'm
come
talking about, not inches,
Yeah.
on my computer screen.
So one of the things that Floyd and I are working on this project, and we're talking about ways to make sure that those things are very easily read and very easy for the public to look at as well. So that's another long-term goal. We're not quite there yet, but it is in the global picture.
Right. I mean, it's not only to get it to you all. It's to get it out there. I mean, people are more frequently going to the website to look for that information instead of coming physically down there to look for it on paper. And so to get that more available to the public would make their comment more readily available and meaningful into the process.
It just, Franklin does it now, right? It's all electronic as far as commissioners and, or
Same
aldermen. and
program exactly
Yeah.
as Franklin, so it would likely be a similar setup with how they would do theirs.
Okay, so if and when you go to this process, we will have the information on the screen here, or will we have to have laptops?
We would be able to broadcast it on the screen, and there's also the projection on the sides as well as the TVs here, and we could try all of those things, and if we find that they don't work, we can address that as a new thing to look at and make sure we're...
But that's not happening tomorrow.
No, that's
This is a while.
Yeah, that's definitely like beginning of winter at the earliest.
Don't give yourself a deadline. But if you still want your paper packet, I'll get it to you.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to figure how it would work out to have your copy, making your notes at home.
Right.
To have them here, other than, or have a large printer at your house to print all this stuff out. I mean, it's...
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't ask you to print it.
There's a few hoops I think we have to go over.
Well, I would say this, right now, we have to assess, the technology. We also have to assess, which is gonna be the best way to deliver this. And, right now, we're taking our first steps. We hope to get the review, once we get the review process straightened out, we'll start eating the next elephant one bite at a time.
So are y'all good with coming up with some specific rules on the written stuff? We'll bring an amendment back next month. So if we are, and we'll move on to the next topic.
Can you send those out before, maybe electronically, just to let us think about them?
The draft?
Yeah, before the August meeting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they'll be in your packet, but I can email it to you too if you want me to.
Yeah.
And and that it's not like up or down vote next month. If we get to something and y'all want to adopt part of them, but you still want to tweak some, I mean, that's okay too. This is just getting the discussion, getting the ball rolling, and making it clear so when it's implemented, everybody is all on the same page. No pun intended. Okay, so the next one I want to address should be fairly simple, but it's still something that we haven't spelled out clearly enough, in my opinion, in the bylaws. The zoning ordinance allows public hearings on here and at the county commission, but we're talking specifically here when you have a proposed amendment to the ordinance or to the map. What a lot of jurisdictions do is they specify in their bylaws or their rules of procedure just kind of how the public hearing is to be conducted, so that when people are coming here, they already know what to expect. And I would just like to kind of flesh that out in our bylaws a little bit. We have a procedure set up for when things are filed and those kind of deadlines, but we really don't address when you have a public hearing for that the zoning ordinance requires. Here's how you should do it. You should, you have come up to the podium, you state your name, and I mean it's basic stuff, and a lot of it is really just codifying what we're already doing. Your chairman tells people what to do already, so it's really codifying it and making it available so people know before they show up that they're going to need to say who they are and where they live and make it clear what their position is. And please don't have 50 people stand up and say the exact same thing over and over and over again, because we get it. I mean, it'll be a little more formally stated than that, and this is very standard across a lot of jurisdictions. It's just something that we're missing, I think, in our bylaws. And I would like to put that in there as well. Another thing that other jurisdictions do that I think may be helpful, and actually our Board of Zoning Appeals does this, Mr. Crohan, reads a statement at the beginning of the meeting the release before the public hearing. The BZA, every item is a public hearing. That basically says, this is what it's for. Please only comment to the item that's before us. Don't comment on other things. We can only focus on what you're sharing with us about this matter. I think a lot of the frustration that comes about is because people think you all have more power than you do. And so if at the beginning of the public hearings it can be made clear that what you do and what your role is and what you're asking, I think, again, the discussion or the comment that's offered is going to be more meaningful to the person offering it and for you all as well, because they'll know what kind of things they need to address to you that you can really consider. Because there's a lot of stuff that's said that you really can't consider. I'm not trying to cut people off from sharing things, but if we're going to say if we're going to do these things, let's tell them what it would be best for you all. And so I was just going to kind of pattern some of that from some of the other jurisdictions in the area in their rules and procedure. It's pretty simple stuff. Another thing that I wanted to codify, again, this is something that we've done for years, as long as I can remember, is the chairman, as a matter of courtesy, has always allowed the county commissioners for the districts where that project is located to address the planning commission, even if it's not a public hearing. And I think that's a great process. I think it's very helpful because it's not a public hearing, but it still gives the opportunity for that elected representative to share with you all concerns that they're receiving for their constituents. So just like with the other public hearing process, I just kind of want to write it down and say this, we've done it for at least 20 years as far as I know. But if we're going to be more specific in our rules and procedures, then we just need to write it down and say how that works. So y'all good? Y'all good with that? A couple other little cleanup things, and then I'll come back to the last one, which is the one that we need to spend the most time talking about. Right now, we don't really have a lot of rules, procedures specified about how we handle our consent agendas. We do it, we've done it the same way, it's pretty clear. Again, I just want to write it down. I just like our bylaws to be fleshed out a little more, so you're going to see an amendment in there addressing the consent agenda. And then a couple other cleanup things that I've seen. The last time we had revised these, I think, was 2008, and it's just time to get it out and compare it to what we're doing and state statutes and that kind of thing, and see if there's anything we need to clear up. Some stuff I'd be a little more specific about, quorum, the membership rules, just that kind of stuff. But I also want to talk about, after we have this other discussion, about ex parte communications and what those are and whether we should adjust those. But the big topic that we need to spend some time on, and we talked about this a little bit, well, we talked about it a lot actually at the presentation last month, is allowing additional public comment on developments where we don't now. For those of you that weren't here, you may not recall, in the previous zoning ordinance, there were there were some residential developments that, because of natural resources and things, they were considered conditional uses. And so there was a conditional use, there was a public hearing for that residential development before the planning commission. Now, because of kind of the way the state law reads about who reviews conditional uses and uses on review, that kind of thing, when we adopted the new zoning ordinance, which became effective in 2013, that went away because a lot of those were not conditional uses anymore. They were treated differently. The natural resources were redone, and some things that had been conditional uses at the planning commission were shifted to special uses at the BZA. So there is a history of you all receiving public comment on certain types of subdivisions. They were, I think, OSRDs. They had the natural resource component, almost like a conservation subdivision kind of component. And so what I would like you all to consider is taking that again, is taking some public comment where you have residential developments that are on the larger scale, that have the potential to have an effect on the surrounding community, and give the opportunity for the the residents in that area to A, know that it's coming up, and B, have the opportunity to comment in writing according to our rules, or appear here and share it with you. Again, in the context of hopefully them understanding what you can and cannot do with the information and what information would be helpful to you. There was a lot of frustration after Stevens Valley and a couple other subdivisions have come through in the last 6 months or so, and I think that it would be helpful, again, for there to be a formal way for people to share with you what their concerns are, and then if that's something that you all can act upon, then you have that information and you'll have it in a meaningful amount of time and opportunity. What I'm recommending is that occur at the concept plan stage. As you all know, when the state statute changed granting vesting to developments earlier in the process, when you come in for a concept plan approval, you are vested for a long time, if you meet all the steps. And so whereas used to, in some types of subdivision, we had sketch plans and they were more for discussion and comment without an actual vote, this first step that comes to you all now at concept plan gets a vote, and it gets locked in and it's vested. So that would be, I would think, the time that you all would want to take public comment and have the most opportunity to consider those things. Now, what we need to talk about is at what stage, because I don't think a 5-lot subdivision is something that you all need to take public comment on. It needs to be something of a size that has an effect on the neighbors and the community, and something that you all feel would be meaningful and helpful to everyone involved to offer that public comment. So I do recommend the concept plan stage. What we need to have some discussion about is what size subdivision. And I know, Mike, you were going to look into some numbers just to share with them, what, because, one of the questions is, well, are we going to have 5 every meeting? Well, it kind of depends. And so Mike was going to look into subdivisions that we've approved at the concept plan stage, and at what level, and I'll stop talking now.
Yeah, so Katie pulled some information for me related to this, and what I asked her to do was pull subdivisions that were in excess of 50 lots. We feel like, either 50 or 100 might be a good number for that, line of demarcation to be. And so we did want to get an idea of how many that would be, or give you an idea of that. And so going back, she went back to 2006, so 10.5 years now. And over the course of the last 10.5 years, we've had 21 concept plans that exceeded 50 lots. So that's an average of about 2 per year. Not real significant. And during that same time period, there were 13 developments that exceeded 100 lots. So, a little over 1 per year. So that's just to give you an idea on average of what we've been seeing.
So what are your thoughts about that? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Now, how did we get from sketch plan, concept plan, no vote to vote?
It was basically with the vesting statute. There were some types of subdivisions that already had a vote at the sketch plan
Are you
stage.
vested because we vote?
It's vested because the way the statute defines when those vesting rights come in, the way our concept plans and our sketch plans, the detail that was involved and what we were looking at that stage was going to grant them vesting anyway. And
Vote or no vote?
Pretty much the way it's defined, and
All right,
so we needed to tighten it down and just make it uniform,
That's
frankly.
Good. 50, how many did you have less than 50, 50 or less than 50, would you say?
50 or greater
Oh,
was
okay.
21 over the last 10.5 years.
2 a year.
Hmm?
What comes to my mind on that is how you control the time on something like that. As we've seen in the few we've had in the past, we might as well pack our lunch. We'll be here a long time for some of them. So would you be able to put a time period, in other words, a discussion, 15-minute, 20-minute discussion? Yeah. Because
Yeah, I mean, we can put parameters on there, you know, as long as we make sure that the opportunity is there for people who want to appear can speak. But you can put time limits for individual speakers. That's pretty standard in lots of rules of procedure.
I'm not talking about speakers, I'm talking about the entire public hearing, because you get, like Stevens Valley, you get this filled up with people, and everybody here wants to speak.
No,
Well,
you can do that, Don.
You
Pardon?
can, and I think part of that is also making clear, you know, or at least asking people, you know, don't 50 people stand up and say the exact same thing.
Well, as county commission, and correct me, Jack, if I'm wrong, you got 30 minutes. If there's 30 people, each of you got a minute. If there's 10 people, each of you got 3 minutes.
Well,
Is that not?
also, if there's 3 people, you still have 3 minutes. So the
3
max.
is the max.
Yeah, 3 minutes max.
So that's not something that's uncommon.
Okay.
And it needs to be there because it can get,
Totally out of hand.
well, you can say to folks, don't tell me the same thing over and over again, but I guarantee you they will do that over and over and over. Same point. Excuse me, counsel.
I personally like the total time limit, but the individual time limit too, both time limits.
That's what we were
Been
talking
meetings
about.
that somebody could talk an hour.
My only concern is it might be a little misleading that you're allowing them to speak about something that we have no control on their.
Well, exactly, and that's kind of hard to explain to people. It's like you want people to have the opportunity to speak, but it gets very frustrating for you all to hear things that you can't act upon, and for people to speak to you and they feel like you're not listening to them anyway. Okay, so there's got to be a happy medium, and I think part of that again is working with, you know, the staff and the chairman to come up with a statement to, like, the read at the beginning of opening any public hearing. So not every single one, but before we have the public hearing section of the meeting. And I've even seen some jurisdictions take a similar statement like that, and it's printed on their agendas. And so, I mean, it's all out there everywhere. I mean, part of it is...
Card, you were talking about sign-up card. We were also talking about signing in and putting a few do's and don'ts on it kind of way. Robin, did you want to say something? I see you're lit up over here.
I was going to say that I definitely agree we should have some public speaking. I do agree with time limits. Also, because, I mean, people, they're very emotional. I get emotional about things as well, and I would want my county commissioners to come up and speak on my behalf. And if they can get organized and have one person be the spokesperson, but still limit it. And also, during recently, even the developers, I can recall in the last couple of months, I mean, that particular developer stood and talked and on and on and on. And at first, you know, it's kind of like in church. You got me for 20 minutes, and after that, I'm kind of like, I'm zoned out. But I do think it's kind of like that. We understood what they're saying, but I think not only for the residents, but I think the developers, the applicants, county commissioners, John, but you know what I'm saying. I think because we could be here all night, and I do think that when you have 50 people saying the same thing, then you almost get kind of, again, kind of zoned out, like they're saying the same thing. And I want to appreciate and I want to feel what they're saying, but when everybody's saying the same thing, I'm just kind of.
I try, Robin, to control that, but
and you do a good job.
No, I don't.
Except for that one developer. But
it's really difficult to do, because they will just shift it a little bit and keep trucking on me. One thing I just thought of: are you going to codify our procedural violation of Robert's rules, or my procedural violation of Robert's?
Well, yeah, that's right. That's one thing we did talk about. The way standard Robert's rules, which doesn't really work with planning commissions at all, and it's actually better the way we do it based on your obligation as a planning commission to state reasons why you're doing what you're doing. standard Robert's rules, like they do in the county commission, is you have to move a resolution and get a second just to get it on the floor just to talk about it. Now, the way the planning commission law works, you all can't approve or deny something unless you have reasons to do so. And if we followed that traditional Robert's Rules procedure, you all would have to move to approve or move to disapprove. And even though the discussion will come after, it's kind of hard to state on the record in your motion why you're doing what you're doing if it has to occur before the discussion and before any public comment and before anything. So the way we've traditionally done it, as you all know, and as actually other jurisdictions do it, the staff report is read, you all have discussion, public comments taken, however, and only after all that information is shared and out there for your consideration does someone move to approve or deny. And just like y'all saw the other day, you got to take an action one way or the other. And so what Mr. Chairman is referring to is, again, just writing it down. That's how we've done it. That's how it's pretty standard for planning commissions, but it's something that we would just write that procedure down in the bylaws. Thank you for reminding me of that. So back to the public comment. Give me some.
100 lots is fine with me, and 50 is fine with me too. If, I mean, it doesn't, I'm really not hung up either way.
50.
Come on, guys. I can get mannequins to sit there and do nothing.
I would say 50 is reasonable, since we don't have that many of them, to let the public be able to speak.
I got 150 and 100, and there's 12 of us. Robin?
I'm fine with 50.
Jack wants 10.
No.
You want 10?
No. 50's fine.
There you go. That's enough.
I got a question. The legal aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
How can you differentiate between 50 or 49 if somebody's moving a 5-lot subdivision next to me? It impacts me, and to me that's just as important as those people at 50, and I don't know where you differ.
Right. Well, I think part of it is the effect on the community at large, on the immediate vicinity of that development, on traffic, you know, a mile and a half away. And so the larger the community, obviously, the more impact that's going to have. However, if we still have the written comment, the guy next door to the 2-lot subdivision would still be able to share some information, unless we're going to back that down some.
Well, they still have, I don't intend to change procedurally the commissioner being able to comment on the under 50 lots. Y'all don't have a problem with that, I assume.
Right.
I mean, that's their mini public hearing, I guess, for the under 50. That's why I wasn't too concerned about whether it was 100 or 50, because I intended to continue that. So they do still have a voice. I don't have a problem with that at all.
So what I'm hearing is write up some procedures, and it'll be pretty similar to what I'm writing for the zoning ordinance public hearing, as far as how it works and who gets up and how long. And you would like to see some time limits built in, so you're not here all night, which I understand. So we'll talk about it as a staff and try and come up with a good way to address that.
Well, I think the 2 time limits is good, a total and a per person. Isn't that the way you work, Jack? Thank you.
So total time limit per item and a per person.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to get to that. You know, some of this written stuff and even this, the applicant needs to comply with it too. Now, I don't know if we want the applicant to speak during the public hearing or allow them to speak separately, but have time limits, and we can talk about that.
They have their own forum. It's not part of the public hearing.
Mm-hmm. So keep them separate from the public hearing,
Absolutely.
But have procedures and time limits, and don't let them drone on and on and on. I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm.
Right.
to Stevens Valley, are we talking about the engineering presentation or the planner's presentation? Or are we just talking about the general developer?
All of the
That's a good
above.
point too. That was
I
very
mean,
long.
but if you're in a 800 lot subdivision, it may take a little while for the engineer or planner to go through the plan. You can't do that in 10 minutes.
Well, we're gonna have to have some discretion there.
Right.
I don't know how we do that, other than I do it, but I think you have to have some, there's a whole lot of difference in 849 lot,
Yep.
than a 49 lot subdivision, no doubt. A lot more complex and a lot more things to think about.
Because on the other hand, a lot of the things that the developer is talking about will answer the question for the public too. And for us.
Right.
He's a
So
smart
he's
developer.
got a lot of
already done
information to
that.
get to us.
Right, so that presentation could, you're right, could go ahead and share a lot of information and questions that may be in the audience or may be up here for you all, and that would then shorten some, the time later, but
Right.
what, I'll take kind of, is there anything else you think we need to address to kind of take this and start working on some?
The only other thing that we've talked about as a staff is extending our review cycle from its current 3 weeks to a longer period of time. Now, that wouldn't affect the planning commission. Y'all would still see things just how you do now, but it would be a bylaw change if we were to extend our internal review cycle.
Your call, Bubba.
But we're thinking about doing that to give us more time to review, get comments, have those comments addressed, then review those and get the staff report to y'all. Wouldn't affect what you all see, though.
Well, one thing briefly, was there anything else in the public comment piece that you think that we needed? Okay. Y'all have a provision in your bylaws called ex parte communications. And basically what that means is people communicating with you outside of this meeting. And people calling you on the phone. So if somebody's calling you on the phone and telling you something, then you haven't heard it, and you haven't heard it, and you haven't heard it, and all vice versa, all of that. Part of what I would like to address is giving you the ability to say, if someone calls you, I would rather you submit that to this so everyone is sharing. I think some of you may feel obligated to engage, and I understand that. What concerns me is because this isn't a legislative process, there really shouldn't be any lobbying of you all. Your job is to take the zoning ordinance and the plans and the subregs and stormwater regs and everything and say, yes, it meets the standards that the county commission has given me or not. And if I need to impose some additional conditions to make things better. If you are being lobbied one way, but you aren't, and you aren't, but you are by a completely different person, now I can have someone show up, say in litigation or in general, saying, well, okay, well he just did this because so-and-so promised him something. Okay? It gives you the permission to say, please either submit it to me in writing through this process or come to the public hearing and comment. That way everybody's on the same page, and there can even be the appearance that you've been somehow influenced. Now that's completely different if it were a legislative thing. When it comes to the county commission and the way they act through their authority, where they're actually adopting the law and adopting the zoning ordinance, legally in case law, obviously they're obviously entitled to talk to their elected representative. And I'm not saying don't talk to people, but I would like to specify that. And there's a lot of cases about this where there's the appearance of influence, even though nothing ever happened, because someone felt obligated to have the conversation standing in line at Publix about this development. And I would like to write it in a sense that where if you want to, you should be able to say, it's better if you submit this in writing or come to the public comment so that we all hear it, and you just have a little more guidance on that. Right now, the way it's written, it just basically addresses the sunshine law, which you all know you're not supposed to do that anyway. But I would like to write that out and have it a little more specific, give you all a little more leeway to ask people to follow the proper channels. If you don't like it, we don't have to put it in, but that was the only other thing I wanted to talk to you about that I'm going to try and take a stab at. So,
Regular mail.
You mean a request to meet?
No, like, we all get mail, we all get emails, so.
well, that's going to be part of the education process. Once we get these procedures in place, it's making sure people know, here's the best way to get in touch with everybody, and here's what we would like for you to do, and we can talk about whether we should even consider anything, or if you get something like that. What ultimately I would like to see is people don't contact you directly at all. They send it through the proper channels and provide the information. So now I know that's a perfect world, and that's
Hey, I have a solution for that. It works really, really well. When they call, and I get a lot of calls, development community, say, I'll be glad to meet with you. What we'll do is we'll go down to the county and reserve a conference room, and we'll have staff and counsel there, and we'll meet. You never hear from them again. I absolutely swear it goes away immediately when you. So, if you'd like to use that, enjoy. It works.
That's what I mentioned earlier. Unless we have an official stamp or something on that, we know that we don't consider this, regardless what's sent to us. We don't consider it because it's not part of the program.
Well, you're gonna get stuff in your email.
Right.
I don't know how they get.
But you don't have to reply, do you?
Oh,
You
no,
never reply
no,
to emails?
no, you don't
No.
have to read them either.
Well,
They got a duck, put them in spam, delete them.
the main thing is to make sure that everyone is able to communicate with you, and everyone has a level playing field, and that they can get it all to all of you, and that the information is shared and it's weighed and considered. And so I think with making sure that the opportunity is there for the written communication, more opportunity is there for the public comment, I think it's going to be a broader, more balanced process.
Holly, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we can create a central email, why is my email address on the county website? If I'm really not supposed to consider, or I'm really, I feel like that's going to really make some people mad that they can't email me, that they're not seeing, that I'm not seeing what they're sending, even though they're not sending it to Robin or, John or whomever. I think it's kind of frustrating maybe for some people to see my email address, they send me something, but that it's nothing I can consider. So it's vetted, if it's sent to Katie or whomever, on the planning website, there's only one email address that anybody can send anything, and then it's up to staff to disseminate it to the rest of us. I just think it's kind of misleading if our phone numbers and our emails are on the county website, that people really think that we have any control
Well, and that's
over
part
some
of it.
things.
I mean, once you all get to where you've established how you want this to work, then there's going to need to be some changes made in other areas. And again, there's going to be a transition period. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to cut off people's access to you all.
No, I'm not either. But
I'm trying to make it meaningful and in a way that is shared by everyone, considered by everyone, and is fair and balanced, not weighted toward the applicant, not weighted toward the public, not weighted toward staff, everybody. And so it's clear who gets to say what. There's going to be a transition period. Wherever we land on this, we'll have to probably make some changes in some of our other processes. But the main thing is making sure people understand that, hey, we want to hear from you, and here's how we need you to do it so that we all have it and we all can all consider it.
And I guess that was my recommendation, with having just that one email address that the public can email, knowing that that's going to be vetted, well, maybe not vetted, but it's going to go through staff, and then everybody's going to get it.
Right, as long as it's clear that that's where it is.
Right.
Because you're right, we don't want to make people frustrated and think, well, I can't even email this person. Like, yeah, you are, and she's getting it, and he's getting it, and he's getting it.
Email, we're all getting it first one person. Because to your point about when I sit down and I get an email that you have printed out, it just came in like at 4 o'clock today. I mean, I may skim over it, but I'm not going to take it to heart, because if I get there at 5 till 7, I'll have time to sit there and read it and other stuff too. But when I do get emails, I actually read them. I think you probably all do, John.
I actually read that 140 I got.
Yeah, I read them. Some of them,
Even the ones that
you
were
about-
exactly the same with different names on them.
Yes. Yeah. But I really do read them, and I want them to have, as you were talking about, meaning and they do have meaning when I can read them at home and, you know, sitting at my desk or whatever, but when I come in here, you know, they say, I just found this out. And I'm really sorry they just found something out. You know, I really do. I feel for that person who just found it out on Wednesday afternoon, and they shoot an email, and I get it, and you know, I barely can, you know, understand what they're saying because I'm skimming. So
Well, and see, that's part of the whole thing. It's getting the information out there sooner, more easily accessible to the public, so they have the opportunity to comment to you in a more timely manner. You know, it's kind of a holistic approach.
I don't know how.
I mean, if everything is electronically, or at least even the staff reports, just some additional things, so people aren't having to call the planning department and fill out a form to get a copy of the staff report or whatever. If it's out there, it's more information for them to be able to digest, and more opportunity to comment on that to you all in a timely way for you all to be able to meaningfully consider the comments. It's an overall
How
shifting.
are you going to communicate to the public, Kristi, or staff, what our ladies are raising, the question of converting them from individual email addresses to that central email address? How do we do that?
Well, I think we're going to have to create a plan for sharing that information with the public, and find different outlets for doing so. You know, maybe even different social media outlets. And there's going to have to be a transition time. I mean, I don't want us to say, as of this date, we're cutting everybody off and you can't. There's going to have to be an educational transition time, because we don't want to create more frustration while we're trying to actually make it less frustrating, if that makes sense. So, sorry, this went a lot longer than we thought. But,
Anything else?
That's it.
This is not public comment.
No, ma'am. Anything else?
Pertain to this, but in the BZA, when we turn something down or whatever, and you've asked us to do this for your purpose, in case we get a lawsuit, we give the reason.
I know.
We don't do it here. Should we be doing it, or do you want us to be doing it?
Well, no, when you approve it, if you approve it with staff recommendation, then those reasons are built into the staff
Yeah,
report.
an explanation.
If you approve it for other reasons, then you generally do say so, or you've referred to conversations and discussions you've already had.
But how about a denial is what I'm talking
Well, a denial kind of works the same way. You generally say a couple of reasons why, and then can also refer to the discussion that you've had, because presumably there's been quite a bit of discussion before you land on the action. That's what I need. I need the discussion. I need the reasons in the discussion, and then if some of those or most of those can be recited in the motion, even in generalities referring back to the discussion, that's a perfect world for me in a denial.
about. Thank you.
Kind of like what you do in BZA.
We're out of here. You want this packet?